Let's cut straight to the chase. Nobody cares. Nobody cares as much as you think that they do. That is a caveat. Despite what 21-year-old me thought, the world is not out to get me. The world does not revolve around me. I am simply one of the many NPC players living in this world. Everyone has their own lives to live. Nobody is as invested in what you are doing or how you're feeling than you are. They're not living your life. They're not living with the consequences or the benefits of your choices. So why should they have a say in who you are or how you live your life? Focus less on how others might be perceiving you, how others feel about you as a person, and be more concerned with your own self-interest. Because again, nobody cares as much as you think that they do. Another lesson I learned in my early 20s is that part of growing up can sometimes mean growing apart or growing out of things. And it was a really bittersweet thing to learn, especially when it came to people, that growing apart didn't necessarily mean that that was a bad thing or that anyone did anything wrong. But it really struck me a couple years ago when I started to grow apart from like my friend group. And it wasn't out of animosity, I would say. I find that we just have our own lives to live, and that is kind of part of the first point I made, that nobody cares. It's not that I don't care about them or that I don't love them, it's just that our lives have gone different ways. Sometimes you grow out of the things that you guys enjoyed together. Sometimes you grow apart because people change, and that's okay. I've changed a ton. But truly, it's just been a change of priorities, of schedules, hobbies, interests, and that's okay. Growing apart doesn't mean that you absolutely have to say goodbye. It's more that you say, see you around less often. I've come to accept that that is totally okay, because I know at the end of the day that I still love them and they would still love me as well. It's just that our lives go in different directions. And this applies not just to like people in relationships, but it also applies to like hobbies or interests. You know, I have recently taken up language learning again. I was interested in that when I was younger, just never had the time. I watch a lot less movies. I now go on walks with my dog. Just different interests. This is something I wish I had learned earlier on in my 20s, and it is setting boundaries. I did not set boundaries for so many years, and it caused me so much pain. Boundaries are essentially rules and guidelines that you can share with others to inform them in how you want to be respected and treated. And that is something I completely forgone in my early 20s, because I think part of me was afraid of coming off as prude or feeling like I was being burdensome to other people. I felt like I was being difficult, and so it was very hard for me to set boundaries with people. I was receiving treatment that I just wasn't willing to accept, and it caused a lot of pain to myself and to my relationships, because some people were unaware of those boundaries I had internally, because I never shared them. So part of setting boundaries is really just stipulating them and making sure you're communicating those boundaries so that other people have a good roadmap for how they should treat you and respect you. It truly is a form of self-respect and setting a standard for how you want to be treated. And I think that in your early 20s, you're constantly exploring new places, new hobbies, new people, and relationships. And it is absolutely essential for a healthy relationship of any kind to have those boundaries. So make sure that when you are establishing like relationships and boundaries, you ask your partner what theirs are, because some people don't know how to properly communicate those boundaries. So that is a huge tip that I want you guys to really practice moving forward. This next one I like to call use shame sparingly. What I mean by that is that I don't allow myself to feel ashamed or shame for things that I do that don't cause any harm to other people. That is what I reserve shame for. The only situation where I'm allowed to feel shame is if I have done something to hurt others, whether that is lashing out or doing something that directly hurts someone else. That's what I reserve shame for. And I allow myself to feel that shame because it deters me or discourages me from doing those same things again. It is my body's way of telling me that I've done something that I should not repeat. But I have told myself that I'm not allowed to be ashamed of things I cannot change, things that do not impact others, but I do not allow myself to feel ashamed for things like the way my body looks, or when I started to lose my hair. For a second there, due to alopecia, for a second there, I felt ashamed, which didn't make any sense to me. But I caught myself feeling ashamed, and I reminded myself that that is not something you should be ashamed of. That is not something that you apologize for, so there is no shame that should be attached to something like that. Remind yourself to use shame sparingly. Shame could be a wonderful tool in learning, but it should never be used to punish yourself for something you have done that is not inherently bad morally. The fifth thing I learned in my early 20s is that unconditional love is so overrated, or at least misunderstood. I know it sounds really romantic to have the kind of love that can withstand anything, that can weather every storm, or that it feels good to be able to say that you love someone through the worst of times, which I believe for any relationship you need to have grit. To be able to weather those storms together, you need to be willing to fight certain battles and to let certain things go. But I do not agree or believe in the concept of complete unconditional love. Love does not need to be unconditional to be grand or to be wonderful. I think that that leaves so much room for abuse or for, someone taking advantage of you and your patience. Escaping is not healing. I ran and hid and ducked away from all of my trauma for so long, and I masked it underneath layers and layers of romantic relationships, sexual relationships, friend relationships, alcohol, nicotine, other substances, because I did not want to confront or face the things that I felt too weak to take on and to challenge. I spent a great deal of my early 20s trying to escape my problems and never truly healing from them. Not until about 2.5 years ago when I decided to begin therapy and to wean off of some of my more damaging vices. I started to rely a lot on alcohol and going out to escape the dread, the existential dread I constantly felt internally whenever I was alone. I would go to a bar and I would drink until I couldn't feel anything, or I felt everything all at once and poured it all out in a cathartic and damaging way. And it was just not obviously sustainable or healthy or safe. So that was definitely not a healing era. That was an era of self-destruction and escaping my problems and returning to them the same day or whenever I was sober. And just doing that loop on repeat until I realized that I was going nowhere. I was spinning on a little hamster wheel, not doing anything. And I was sick of that. And I spent quite a few years allowing those vices to really just rip me apart. So there's that. Pop quiz. What is the sexiest thing someone can wear? No, it's not a smile. It was confidence. Confidence is key. I wish I had been more confident when I was younger. Truly, I mean, even now, I'm a super insecure person sometimes. Guilty. But I have grown to be so much more confident, and it has helped in so many ways. Whether that is professionally, in my career, with my interactions with other people. I have learned, primarily actually, what kickstarted it was being on Watch Cut, but just truly being in tune with myself, embracing my personality and kind of leaning into it has allowed me to be a confident person overall, for the most part. And confidence has really helped me do some of the things I had said before, like setting boundaries and kind of accepting that growing apart from other people was okay. Having the confidence to know that I was enough, or I was allowed to have those boundaries or to place myself first sometimes or respect myself was okay. When I was insecure, I was always worried, again, about other people, what they thought of me or how they felt about me. And when I learned to be confident and to really hone in on what I brought to the table, I found so much more value in myself. I respected myself, I demanded more from others. I was not afraid to kind of assert myself into conversations. I was no longer concerned about what other people wanted or expected from me. I was confident that I was enough. And again, I still have my moments, but when I am feeling that way, I always remind myself, rule number one, nobody cares. This one might be a little controversial. I would actually really be curious what you guys think down in the comments, but it is, being the bigger person does not always make you the better person. And I had to learn that. And I actually use that to my advantage now, again, with boundaries, because I was always told, oh, you should be the bigger person and like forgive them. You should be the bigger person and not like retaliate, don't say anything back, like don't make an issue out of it, just let it happen. No, no, no. When I became confident and when I started to set boundaries, I did not always immediately tell myself that I needed to be the bigger person or that I needed to change my behavior or to accommodate to someone else's shitty behavior. Being the bigger person sometimes is sticking up for yourself. And I have had to learn that. You guys might know that in the past that I have experienced things like bullying, and I told myself, be the bigger person and like, you know, just don't stick up for yourself because you can just, you know, suffer in silence. Yeah, that sucked. And people labeled me as a pushover, and people saw me as being meek and weak and unable to defend myself. The last couple years, I've learned to be assertive while still remaining respectful. And I guess some people will say that that is being the bigger person, but I guess the way that I have always seen being the bigger person is like moving forward as if it didn't harm you, or as if it didn't hurt or offend you. And I think that it's important, again, to communicate when you've been offended or harmed and to kind of correct people when they're behaving in a way that you don't allow or accept. Now, when someone has an issue with me or when I have an issue with someone else, I confront them. And I try to verbalize either my dissent or to have a conversation. And I try not to shy away from an opportunity to engage in that difficult conversation now, because I want to get to the bottom of this, or I at least want to defend myself. So, you don't always have to be the bigger person, or being a bigger person does not necessarily mean to like shut up and take it. This next one is a bit of a 2-for-1, and it is simply to be real. Whether that is to be real as in authentic to your true self, or be real as in, come on, be for real. Do you really think social media, what you see on social media, is that all real? No. Be real, touch grass, be in tune with reality. Because in this day and age of social media, it is so easy to get swept up in the theatrics and the filters and the reality that we see online. I know this has been inundated and it has been repeated all throughout the internet, but just be real, unplug. For a while there, I was not really posting regularly. Obviously, I have not been posting here because I needed to kind of disconnect and connect with people in my life or just the world around me. I think it got pretty weird to feel like most of my life was being cataloged for strangers on the internet. And I have now recently gotten to a place where I feel like I can do so while respecting my privacy, which is why I'm back here. But I did not feel like a real person for a little bit. I don't know if others have experienced that who are on social media, but reconnect, be real, be yourself. Don't measure up your life to what you see on the internet, because it's a crock of shit. And lastly, although I know I've lost 95% of you, slow down. slow down, be patient, truly take it all in, because you truly have one life to live, assuming that's what you believe in, and just enjoy it. Even the worst parts of it, experience it, feel it, because someday it's gonna all be gone. And you're gonna wonder why you let it all just aimlessly pass you by. I am 25 years old. My kiddo is 7, turning 8 this year. And I just cannot believe how much life has changed in just a couple of years. And for a little part of that, actually a big part of it, if I'm being honest, I felt like I was on autopilot. I felt like I was zooming through days. I felt like I was just trying to get the week over with. Like, oh, I can't wait until the weekend. But if you're just living for the weekend, what are you doing 5 days out of the week? So, slow down. Enjoy the little moments. And just be at peace with where you are right now. I mean, this is the youngest you'll ever be again, and the oldest you've ever been. And in the wise words of that turtle guy in Kung Fu Panda, the past is history, tomorrow is a mystery, and today is a gift. And that is why it is called the present.